Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Today marks the 44th anniversary of the tragic plane crash that killed band members of Lynyrd Skynyrd, including frontman Ronnie Van Zant. I spoke with one of Skynyrd's two Hall of Fame drummers, Artimus Pyle, about his experience on that fatal flight and the legacy of the band's music from Sweet Home Alabama to Simple Man to Freebird. Artimus Pyle, hey, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP.
Hey, Jason, how are you today?
I'm doing well. We're speaking today. I'm so excited to talk to you about, Lynyrd Skynyrd, my dad's favorite band, one of my favorite bands. You were the drummer. But it's also bittersweet because we're here talking because it's today is the anniversary, the 44th anniversary, I believe, of that tragic plane crash that, killed so many members of the band. And you were on that plane. And I know it's being chronicled in a new film called Street Survivors, the true story of the Lynyrd Skynyrd Plane Crash. Tell me about why you agreed to participate in the movie. It must be hard memories, very, very tough time, but why should we check out the movie?
Well, I was approached, by Cleopatra Films um, to make the film, and I just thought it was time for the Skynyrd fans to, know what happened to us on that fateful day and that fateful evening. Um, I'm not getting any younger, and I don't think Skynyrd fans are getting any younger. So it was time to tell that story.
Well, tell us. I know we don't want to give away the movie or anything. We want people to go see the movie, but share if you can. And again, I know there's probably a whole load of just PTSD associated with it, so I want to handle this with care. But if you can paint us a picture of where you were, what the show you had just performed, maybe the last time you saw your buddies, and just try to describe however you want. If you don't want to go into it, that's totally fine. But share with whatever you can remember of those last sort of moments with your friends.
Well, I think about this every single day. Um, so, it's not something that I can put out of my mind. It's always there. I always think about it. Um, we played in Greenville, South Carolina, our last show, the last time that Ronnie Van Zant ever sang Freebird was in Greenville. And, then we were headed to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We were on a 95 city world tour. We were going to do our United States leg of the tour using our airplane that we had our name on it. And then we were going to, go to Australia, Japan, Europe. Um, we'd been to Japan and Europe, but we were going to Australia for the first time. So we had an extensive 95 city world tour, and we were only 5 shows into it when we played in Greenville. And, we ran out of gas. I mean, it's pretty much as simple as that. The pilots made a fatal mistake, and they were good guys. I knew them, but they made a very bad mistake by not checking uh, the tank on the plane. It's a 1947 Convair, so you can't really trust the gauges on an older aircraft like that. And most pilots understand that you're supposed to take a wooden stick and you drop it down into the tank to visually see how much fuel you have. And they did not do that. And we were only, about 60 miles away from Louisiana there in Baton Rouge, where our next show was. So we almost made it, but we ran out of fuel um, at about 9,000 feet on our final approach. Um, we took on 400 gallons of fuel in Greenville, South Carolina. I did my research on that after the crash. to, basically uh, get get down to Louisiana, but we were just uh, 60 miles short when we ran out of fuel. Plus, the engine was not running properly, and it was using more fuel um, than necessary. So we had a lot of things against us, going into that.
Man, oh man, 60 miles. It's wow. And history would be forever, music history forever changed, not to mention so many lives. So when the crash happens, I mean, you probably think this is it for you. And then just I'm sure when do you remember regaining consciousness? Do you wake up in a hospital and then they just tell you that, your friends have passed, or what was the experience for on your end?
Well, I've never been knocked out. I've been in a lot of crashes, car wrecks, motorcycle wrecks, different things, and I've never been knocked unconscious. So I was fully aware of every single second
Mm,
that went down, and I knew that we were crashing, but my life did not flash before my eyes. All I was doing was trying to assess, you know, what do I need to do? Because I'm a Marine. Um, I was a Marine sergeant, once a Marine, always a Marine. So my Marine Corps training kicked in, and I just started thinking of what can I do. My life didn't flash before me. I am a pilot, so I kept going back and forth to the cockpit to relay information to the cabin, and I kind of played stewardess, where I went around and told everybody to put out their cigarettes, turn off any lights, and conserve any kind of fuel that we had, any kind of energy that we had aboard the plane. We wanted to conserve that, and told everybody to fasten their seatbelts. Um, so I knew what was happening. We all knew what was happening. Um, there was a certain amount of calm aboard the plane. There was a couple of incidents where a band member got really mad at the pilot and co-pilot for letting this happen.
mhm.
So there was a little bit of yelling going on, but we everybody pretty much remained calm, and we realized that we just needed to hang on because it was going to be rough, and it was. So that's what the movie is about. Cleopatra Films approached me, Brian Pereira and Tim Yasui, and I believe they had brought on board Jared Cohn, the director, who did a great job. So they came, they met me in Nashville and asked me if at first I thought they just wanted my band to write music for some kind of a movie that was coming out. Then I realized that they actually wanted to do the story of the plane crash. And I had to tell the story from my point of view because there were so many lawsuits. Judy Van Zant had $1,000 an hour blood sucking weasel attorneys from New York City. And they were coming after me with, both barrels, calling me every name in the book, saying that I didn't have a right to tell my own story. So the entire time that we did the movie, we had these lawyers uh, basically just trying to destroy everything that was happening. Um, Judy is a very litigious human being. She will sue her own mother, and so would these attorneys. So we had to focus the movie just on my recollection and my participation in the crash. And I was, completely conscious, so I remember everything. Um, so doing a movie is hard anyway, but when you're being sued and called names and uh, drugged before judges and lawyers. It makes it even more difficult. But I'm just going to cut to the chase. Three judges in the Court of Appeals system voted against Judy and for Cleopatra and myself that we were able to do the movie. So bottom line is she lost, we won, the movie's finished, and we're very proud of the effort made by Cleopatra, all of the actors and actresses, the film crew, the a guy named Christopher that did music, background music, kind of Game of Thrones type of background music, and then my sons and I and my band and my friends wrote the soundtrack to the movie because we realized if we used any Skynyrd music that Judy and all these assholes would come after us again. So I was kind of glad that we could write our own soundtrack, and I'm very proud of the soundtrack and the movie. It's incredible music written by my sons, my band, and my friends. And so I'm kind of glad that we didn't use any Skynyrd material because, Skynyrd material has been used in multiple movies, and all they had to do was buy the licensing and then use it in the film. But we couldn't do that. So we wrote our own soundtrack, and I'm very proud of the music that came out of it. It's an award-winning soundtrack in my estimation. The movie and the soundtrack has been out for, over a year. We released it right during COVID. And that's another thing, releasing a movie is hard under any circumstances, but releasing it during COVID added, a certain degree of difficulty to the whole process. But we got it done. It's out there. We had a budget of $1,800,000, and Judy Van Zant spent $2.5 million on legal fees. And I asked Judy and Gary to come to the table and let's make the movie together. And instead, they sent their lawyers after me. So I had to focus the movie from my point of view. And we did use one song, which most people think is a Lynyrd Skynyrd song because Ronnie kind of made it famous and the band, made it famous. And that's Call Me the Breeze.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that we could use that song is because it's not by Lynyrd Skynyrd or Ronnie, it's by J.J. Cale. And we were able to pay the licensing fee and use it for a live shot in the movie. So whatever difficulties and hurdles that we had to come, over, we were able to do it. And I'm proud of everybody that was involved in this.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a very harrowing movie, and not just, a lot of people might think it's like a documentary, but it sounds like you cast it and the whole nine yards. So, I mean, it's going to be powerful.
Oh, yes, Jason. It's a live action film. There's a lot of documentaries about our band, about Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some good ones. There's some award-winning documentaries. One is called If I Leave Here Tomorrow. It was done. Yeah, I think it's trending on Netflix, and it got great reviews. And it's a documentary. I thought that Gary spoke well. I thought that even Judy Van Zant spoke well. It was put together, professionally, but it was a documentary, and this is a live action film. So we're very proud of it, in spite of the fact that we didn't have a lot of money to make the film. I mean, $1,800,000, that's a lot of money to anybody, definitely to me. But to do a whole film, if we would have had the money that Judy spent on attorneys, we would have been able to, do some locations shooting and other things. Everything was shot in California. Um, so, we did the best we could under the circumstances. And as I say, I can't say it enough. I'm proud of my sons, my friends, my band, Cleopatra, all of the young actors and actresses that portrayed us in the movie, because Jason, they're making a film and putting their hearts and souls into their roles, and knowing full well that the movie may never be seen. It could have been shelved and never seen had Judy won in the court system, but she was wrong, totally, and so she lost. And the movie is out there for all to see, and we couldn't be happier about it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure fans of Lynyrd Skynyrd are going to, run, not walk to see this. They're gonna be excited to see this movie. Um, we should mention before we get to any farther in, mention the names of everyone that was lost that day, 44 years ago to this day. Ronnie Van Zant, Steve Gaines, backup singer Cassie Gaines, who was Steve's, older sister, assistant road manager Dean Kilpatrick, and as you mentioned, the pilot Walter McCreary and co-pilot William Gray, all killed on impact. Several other band members, including yourself and the tour manager and some road crew members, survive serious injuries, obviously. And I assume the movie shows I know you don't want to call yourself a hero when you lost so many of your buddies that day, but does the movie show, didn't you help pull some people from the crash?
Well, you're right, Jason. I've never called myself, you know, a hero. Um, but Gary Rossington did, and for years on television and radio and newspaper, newsprint, Gary referred to me as the band's hero. Um, Not my words, but as a Marine, I did what I had to do, um, and I knew that all I could do was go get help. My friends needed help, and I had to go get that help. I did help a couple of people out of the plane. That's in the movie, um, and did everything I could. A little bit of triage, emergency triage before I left the crash scene. Um, but I soon realized that the only thing that was going to help my friends was help. And when I walked out of that swamp and that forest to go get help, I did it for every single person on that plane. Um, and that included our crew, our pilots, and of course the band. Um, so, my intention was to get help back to everybody. And I went to the farmhouse and I came back. Um, and yes, I was upset. I was scared. Um, my friends were dead before my eyes, and that's never a good feeling. But I was able to put one foot in front of the other, even with my injuries, and get to the farmhouse and then bring help back to the crash site. And I think about them, the people that perished. I think about them every single day. Our pilot and co-pilot, I found them, uh, and before I left the crash site, and they were both definitely dead. And then, of course, the four members of our organization, Dean Kilpatrick, who was an amazing guy, um, and Cassie Gaines, she sat in front of me, and she perished, and I'm still here. So it's up to me to talk about her and tell the world what a great person that Cassie was. She had a degree in physical education. She sang in on Broadway and Hair, the musical Hair. Um, she was an amazing person and just lovely human being. And she's the one that told us about her brother Steve, and they were amazing, an amazing family. But when I've said this before, that when you lose somebody like Ronnie Van Zant, who was the lead singer and the visionary for the band and the writer, the prolific writer of the group, and Steve Gaines, who came in and wrote with Ronnie and sang with Ronnie. Ronnie loved it that Steve and he were singing together on stage, which is a song called "You Got That Right."
Great
And
song.
then it always amazed me when we would play in front of 200,000 people that Ronnie would actually leave the stage and, towel off and maybe have a smoke and, a glass of water or a glass of scotch, who knows? Um, but he would actually walk off stage and let Steve Gaines sing um, "Ain't No Good Life," which Steve wrote. And I thought the confidence that Ronnie had in himself, as well as Steve, to let Steve front the band that he worked so hard to put together, it just showed me the confidence that Ronnie had in himself and Steve, and that was an amazing thing to witness. So, I think about them all the time, and of course, the pilots, Walter McCreary and John Gray, they were friends, and I found them. And as I say, I knew that they were gone. There was nothing I could do. And so after I found the pilots toward where the front of the plane used to be, I realized the only thing that was going to help everybody was help. So I started putting one foot in front of the other and doing my United States Marine Corps Gomer Pyle thing. and uh, when I went through boot camp and the DIs would see my name, Pyle, they would, of course, make me say everything that Gomer said on the TV show, including Shazam. So, but, I think about it every day. For years, I was very sad. And then I decided that after 40 years of being sad, um, I'm going to be happy. Not that I celebrate the plane crash, but now instead of like just thinking about the bad side of the plane crash and losing all of my friends and the world lost Ronnie. I mean, we lost Elvis in August, and then we lost Ronnie in October. So the musical world took a hit there between August and October, um, and I just think about the good times. I think about the incredible music that we played all over the world for millions of people. So I've decided, I'm going to be reverent and I'm going to be somber, but I've been sad for over 40 years, and now I'm going to be, you know, happy about the music and the fact that I still play that music with my band all over the country. We were in Minnesota a few days ago and Iowa. We played out there. And my band plays Lynyrd Skynyrd music better than any band in the world. So when we go take this music into the smaller venues around the country, um, the people are so happy to hear the music played properly with respect, honor, and accuracy. Um, and I hear the stories of where they were when we crashed, um, and what the music means to them. So, I just celebrate the power of the music to raise money for cancer and children and police departments and fire departments. The music is very powerful, and we do benefits all the time. For example, this month, the 24th of October, we're our band is joining Dolly Parton in Nashville, Tennessee, at the Country Music Hall of Fame to raise money for breast cancer awareness. So the music is used very powerfully to raise money for the right reasons. And we've done a few shows with Dolly now. I feel like Dolly and I are friends. We might even be related. We're from the same area in Tennessee. And she is the most amazing human being on this planet. She is a humanitarian, singer, songwriter, movie star, uh, performer. She's just amazing. And to be able to play with Dolly, and I don't care how good we are, and we're good, but if you open up for Dolly, uh, you know, it's Dolly's show. And so, there's so much joy in the music. All of the prolific songs that Ronnie wrote about life and love, and um, and we all live. We all die. It's how you live your life. And Ronnie Van Zant lived his life to the fullest, even though it wasn't as long as, of course, we all wanted him to be around, because he and Steve would have, written many, many more songs. And that's what we think about. That's where a little bit of the sadness might come, thinking about the potential of what Steve Gaines and the rest of the band, and Ronnie, the music that would have come out. Um, but you understand that, Jason. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean that such a great point, that all the music that was lost. And then but on the flip side, how you're saying you're trying to look for the positives after all 40 years being sad. The positive of just how much amazing music they were able to fit in that first album was 1973. So what, we had like 4 years, 5 years before the plane crash. And but think of how many hits. I mean, that's almost unrivaled for a band to crank out that many famous songs that live on and on in such a short window. If you have time to stick around, I'd love to go through some of that. I mean, I know you joined the band in like the mid 70s. But I'm sure you heard this story of when they founded as a different name. It's like My Backyard or something, like in '64 with Ronnie Van Zant and Gary and Alan and Larry and Bob, the original drummer Bob Burns. Remind our listeners how they came up with that band name. It's a famous story that's been told many times, but maybe for our younger listeners, about how it was sort of a jab back at a gym teacher that said they'd never make it.
Yeah, I was friends with Coach Skinner. His name was Lynyrd Skynyrd, um, and of course the guys changed the name and the pronunciation, but Lynyrd Skynyrd. But Coach Skinner, he became friends with everybody, but he used to kick the guys before. I was in the Marines, and I was kind of older than most of the guys. Ronnie was the oldest. He was a few months older than I, but we were closer in age than the rest of the band. And yeah, their football coach was Coach Lynyrd Skynyrd, and it was that coach and a song, "Hello Mother, Hello Father, Here I Am at Camp Granada." Um, there's a line in there that actually says Lynyrd Skynyrd, and Bob Burns tells that story really well. But of course, we lost Bob about 4 years ago, or maybe going on 5. Um, he was 64 years old, and he was killed in a car wreck. And you see, Bob had joined my band, which is Jerry Lida, Scott Rains, Brad Durden, and of course Dave Fowler, our bass player. He's the one that introduced me to Dolly Parton, so I will be ever indebted to to Dave Fowler. He lives up in Nashville, but the 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 bottom line is that they use that name kind of as a joke and kind of to get back at him for kicking him out of school for long hair. And then, everybody ended up friends with Coach Skinner. And Bob Burns was in my band. I took him on a cruise that we do every year to raise money for the um, Native American Heritage Association. They call it NAHA. And we go out on the Rock Legends cruise every year to raise money for food and clothing and everything for our Native American friends up north. And Bob went on that cruise, and I had production set up 2 matching sets of drums, and I knew exactly what Bob wanted, and we set them up, and then Bob and I played 3 or 4 songs together, and I saw people crying. Tears were coming up in people's eyes, because Bob and I playing together like that. And Bob and I were very close. We talked almost every day. And, my band went over and sang Tuesday's Gone at Bob's funeral. They sang it acoustically and did a beautiful job. And, the whole band, my guys were tickled to death to have the 2 real drummers of Lynyrd Skynyrd, both of us inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame at the same time. That was, an amazing night when we were inducted with Black Sabbath, Blondie, the Sex Pistols, and Miles Davis.
What a lineup.
I'm a jazz freak. What a lineup. Yeah. I got to hang out with Herbie Hancock, one of my heroes, and I'm a jazz freak. And Herbie said to me, Artimus, that song Freebird, that's kind of wild, man. And he watched us do that. Of course, a jazz cat has never probably seen us do Freebird. And it is a wild, chaotic melee of a song. And but I was very proud of that. And Bob, was in our band, and he would come out and play a few songs with us, and the crowd loved it. But then we lost Bob on a dark, stormy night north of Atlanta, out in the woods. Bob missed a curve and went into the woods and hit a tree and was killed instantly. And I loved Bob. I miss him. And he really loved our band, the way they played the songs. And 2 of my guitar players, Jerry Lida and Scott Rains, actually were able to go to Nashville on several occasions and sit with Ed King all day at Ed's house. And Ed showed them the exact way to play those songs. So, they will remember that for the rest of their lives. But, because we lost Ed a while back, he had a heart transplant. He had a little bit of the cancer. The guy didn't have a chance, but, he was 68 years old and he did pretty good under the circumstances. And he was gracious enough to work with my guitar players and make the music right. And, that's something that we're very, we consider ourselves very fortunate to have, Ed's expertise. And now when we play those songs, Jerry and Scott, I mean, they nail it. And, people can tell that we've done our homework. So, you know, um, as I told you earlier in the interview, I think about everybody every day. And, there's only Gary Rossington and I left from the band. And I love Gary and I miss him. But their management company and the wives kind of keep Gary and I separated. That way there's more money for them to steal. And I miss Gary. I'd love to talk to him, but they keep us separated so that they can control Gary and control the money, and they steal a lot of money. Gary is not even on the road now. He's had 7 heart attacks in the last 7 years, heart procedures, and he left the band. Uh, COVID actually gave him a rest, but when they went back to playing, they ran him into the ground again. Now he's not even on the road. So there's nobody in that band that they call Lynyrd Skynyrd from Lynyrd Skynyrd, that was inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's what I go by. And so they're still out there, shaking down the fans, getting those big bucks, for a band that doesn't even have anybody from Lynyrd Skynyrd. So Judy signed off on that. She just she doesn't care who's in the band as long as she makes a big bag of money. And I'm only telling the truth. I'm only saying the truth. This isn't sour grapes or anything like that. I left the band. I wasn't fired. I didn't, quit just because I wanted to quit. I left the band because there was too much funny business with the books, the lawyers, the managers. I didn't like them. I didn't agree with them. And there was a lot of drugs and alcohol. And I was the drummer of the real Lynyrd Skynyrd. I didn't want to be out there on something that was less. So, I have my band that I'm very proud of, and we play the music, and we play the smaller venues. Gary's band, of course, they get the big dollars. They've got the tour buses, the production, and they go into the big places. But I'm kind of proud of my band because we take Lynyrd Skynyrd into smaller places, and I hear the stories, the very heartfelt stories from the fans of Lynyrd Skynyrd, where they were when the plane crashed and what the songs mean to them. A lot of bikers tell me that they bury their friends to Freebird. So it is amazing, as you know, as the drummer of Lynyrd Skynyrd, it is amazing after all these years that these songs are still as strong as they are. When we open up for any of the Southern rock bands, including Charlie Daniels, we lost Charlie last year. He was an amazing person. And it doesn't matter who we play with, the power of the music is such that, a lot of bands don't want us to open up for them because, you know, the people fist bump every single song and sing every word of every song because Ronnie didn't write just hit songs. He wrote hit albums. So to be the drummer of this band and go all over the world playing this music that everybody remembers, um, it's something that I cherish. And to be able to do interviews like this and talk about how great the music is and the band, it's my duty to sign autographs, and because everybody that's not here, all my friends in the band, they would. So that's why I sit for hours and sign stuff until the last person is taken care of. Now, COVID has diminished that somewhat because we don't do as many meet and greets. But I've had all of my shots, and I'm going to get my booster, and I feel comfortable being around, people, although we don't do the meet and greets, as much as we used to, and we'll get back to it. We'll get back to it. Um, but for now, we just want to be safe. We want everybody to, get their vaccines and feel safe and go back to school and go back to work. Because think about it, vaccines there's a long, long list, polio, rubella, mumps, measles, that vaccines have brought under control all these years. And people that don't want to get their vaccines, I would simply say to them, you know, a lot of very smart people have put long hours into figuring out how to make these vaccines work. And to make it totally work, we all need to get on board. I know there are some exceptions and some people that have a good reason for not wanting to get the vaccine. But if we, you know, if most of us do it, we're going to get the herd immunity and get this thing put behind us, like we have, you know, polio and other things. And I would only say to people that don't want to get the vaccine because, you know, because they don't want the government telling them what to do. Well, when I go down the road and I see a red light, I stop at that red light because the government is telling me if I run that red light, I could kill myself or other people, you know. So I stop at all the red lights. That, of course, that's just me. And I'm not trying to be political. I'm just trying to, you know, to say to all my friends, um, you know, protect yourself. And this is not a political thing. This is just something that everybody needs to do so that we can, you know, so people can stop dying because there's what have we lost? Approaching 700,000 people that lost their lives due to COVID, and that's just the United States. It's very tragic, and for us to, you know, get up and running and go back out there and play music, you know, music is very important in everybody's life. It's the language of the universe, but it's music. It's just music. So for that whole year that all the bands were pretty much shut down, some bands found a way to get around some things and do drive-in movie theater concerts where everybody stayed in their cars. It was pretty amazing to see how people, you know, what people would do to be able to continue to play the music. But there was over a year there where, you know, most bands uh, were shut down, and so, but there were many more things that were more important. I love music, and music is extremely important to the world, but it's music, and there were many things that were more important than that. Um, you know, and starting with our children and protecting the children. So, you know, we're coming out of it, and things, in spite of the people that are trying to scare everybody and what have you, we're coming out of it, and we're going to get through this because human beings are resilient, and you know, we live on one planet. We're all one family on this planet. It's not just, you know, you're from Kentucky or the United States or someplace in the world. We're all one planet, and you know, I'm going to play drums till I'm 100 years old, and then I'm going to switch to stand-up comedy.
Well, that's a good first joke right there. No, I appreciate everything you're saying about the current state of where we are right now. And yeah, you know, without making it totally political, but yeah, I mean, to me, it just boils down to, you know, just people need to stop thinking about what they want to do and the things they miss going and doing and start thinking about other people. We're all in this together. So whatever we can do to all get over this thing as fast as we can, I think you know, if we can pull together as if it was like a wartime effort or something like this country used to do, we could be, this thing could be behind us already. But anyway, well,
You nailed it, man. And it is a war. It is a war. Absolutely.
yeah, small price to pay to get through this. Um, well, anyway, thanks for joining us. Before we run, whenever I have someone, I'd like to end on a positive note. Before when I have someone of your stature with so many hit songs, to your credit, I mean, you played on some of these, I mean, just all timers. I'd love to rapid fire chronologically through some of them, and just I'll throw out a title and just say, I don't know, either a memory of playing it or why you think that song works so well. So, like, I know the first album, Give Me Three Steps was the big hit off of that. Um, Why do you think that works so well? Because you can just visualize being in that bar as it's that visual storytelling. You can see that whole confrontation happening.
Well, yeah. I mean, Ronnie wrote about things that happened. Um, he was prolific in that way. So the storyline of "Give Me Three Steps" that really happened. At a little bar. But of course, that was Bob Burns. I was still in the Marines, and that was Bob Burns on that cut. And I thought that Bob, with Al Cooper, the producer Al Cooper, I thought that Bob did an amazing job. Al Cooper got him a great drum sound. It was nice, warm and fuzzy drum sound. And as I say, I love Bob, and I thought he did an amazing job under the circumstances. And there was a lot of circumstances, but he played on "Give Me Three Steps." When I play these songs every night, every single song, I'm thinking of members of the band. I'm thinking of the situations. I'm thinking, as I go through them, and the memories come back. At the same time, I'm doing something very physical, and I'm slamming on the drums. I'm hitting those cymbals and those drums a lot of times with all my might, because that's the way you're supposed to play these songs. Every single Lynyrd Skynyrd song is different. No two Skynyrd songs have the same drum part. They all have the little nuances, the dynamics, the speed, tempo. So I'm thinking while I'm playing to make sure that I execute everything right. But I'm so comfortable with the songs that I'm going down memory lane as well. And Jason, sometimes I'll find myself getting extremely emotional, while I'm playing, and tears will flow. But I just keep on, I keep on slamming. Um, and then there's sometimes the joy is so amazing that I laugh. I'm looking
Oh,
on. I just glanced at my television, and William Shatner is as it just launched, and he's in the air,
wow.
and he's going into outer space.
He's
Blue
the old, at
Origin just launched
age 90, he's the oldest
at
person
90
to
years
enter.
old.
That's fitting for Captain
And a
Kirk,
couple
right?
of years ago, man, I got to play on a Christmas album with William Shatner,
Wow.
and which never would have happened if it wouldn't have been for Ronnie Van Zant. You wouldn't know my name if it wasn't for Ronnie Van Zant. But because of that, and the fact that I played with Lynyrd Skynyrd, and that's my band, William Shatner reached out, his publicist, and I played on "Walking in a Winter Wonderland" on his Christmas album, and I kicked it, man. I threw some licks in there, and then Mr. Shatner texted back. He was in Las Vegas at the time, and they sent him the file to see what he thought about my performance on that song, because Iggy Pop was on it, a whole bunch of different, Todd Rundgren, and he texted back, "I love it." And I'm a horseman. I like to ride horses. I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, raised in Tennessee. I've been on horseback my whole life. And William Shatner is also a horseman. And I told him to be sure and tell him that I rode as well. But yeah, I'm looking at the screen, man, and he is in that capsule on his way to space. Captain Kirk, man, is in space.
Beam
So
him up, beaming
anyway,
up right now as we speak.
he's
Wow.
beaming. He's beaming up. But
That's
yeah, Jason, I really thank you for the opportunity to talk about my band, my music, my friends, and it's I feel like we're still relevant. I think Ronnie's songs are still relevant. Um, Simple Man. I don't know. Did you see the thing on Jimmy Carter called Rock and Roll President
That
that
documentary
played a
came
few
out
months
like
ago?
last year or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a few months ago, and at the end of it, they talked about how Jimmy Carter was friends with Marshall Tucker and the Allman Brothers and all the bands that supported Jimmy Carter. And we did a benefit at the Gator Bowl uh, for Jimmy. And at the end of the piece, I heard Simple Man start coming up in the soundtrack, and they switched to Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan is sitting in this room, and they're playing Simple Man in the background. And Bob says, "Well, it's just like that song by that band Lynyrd Skynyrd," and he was referring to Ronnie.
Mhm.
Uh, he said, "Just listen to the words. That says it all." And when I heard Bob Dylan, America's poet laureate, the great Bob Dylan, quoting Ronnie Van Zant, and then playing Simple Man in the background, I literally got goosebumps and tears started coming at the same time. It made me cry just to hear Bob Dylan talking about, Ronnie Van Zant. And it just made me realize, this is one of the greatest songwriters of all time talking about another great songwriter,
You know why?
that didn't
Because
have a chance.
he's right. That song does say I mean, literally. I mean, Dylan's right, and Ronnie was right. You're right. I mean, forget your lust for the rich man's gold. All you need's in your soul, and be a simple man, or be something you love and understand. I mean, you could play that song back, and just if you make that your life mantra, you're gonna have a good, happy life. It's a great song.
Yeah, and I mean, can you imagine how I felt when I saw that? And I called everybody I knew, my children, they're all grown. And I called them. I said, "Man, did you see that on TV where Bob Dylan was quoting Ronnie Van Zant? And they were playing Simple Man." And that's we're allowed to play two songs when we play with Dolly up in Nashville on the 24th of this month for breast cancer awareness, and we're going to do Simple Man and Sweet Home Alabama.
Wow.
And we the last time we played with Dolly, we played at the Ryman Auditorium there, and we took the roof off that place because we did Sweet Home, um, Simple Man, and Freebird. And everybody in the place was on their feet, fist bumping. I don't think and Dolly was on the side of the stage smiling, and she sent her backup singers out to sing Sweet Home Alabama with us. I mean, what a life! It was incredible, and that was also for cancer awareness. But this is at the Country Music Hall of Fame, and anybody that's going to be in Nashville, get a ticket, buy a ticket. It's a great cause, and come see us. Come see Dolly. We are so proud and so honored to be able to share the stage with her. She's number one in my book, and I really appreciate your time, Jason. I'm available to you to answer any question that you have. You've got my number. If you ever think of a question you forgot to ask or something, just call me.
Oh, I appreciate it. You've stuck around for almost an hour. But I really do appreciate it. Do you mind just telling us real quick? You mentioned Sweet Home Alabama. My listeners will probably stone me if I don't ask you just about just that song. I mean, you joined the band, I guess, right shortly after that had just come out. Right, yeah, that and Freebird had just come out right before you joined. But just I know that was it sort of started as like a clap back at Neil Young, sort of that rivalry, sort of the original diss records back and forth, but it kind of became something more than just that. It became like a anthem of the South, and just a tune that makes everyone feel good when they listen to it now, even though they kind of forget where it started. But just talk about why you think that song has echoed through. I mean, that might be, I mean, aside from Freebird, might be the band's most iconic song.
It is. It's an iconic song, and my interpretation may not be exactly what everybody's is. Um, but I think that Ronnie was saying to Neil Young, he loved Neil Young, by the way. He wore Neil Young T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
So Ronnie didn't hate Neil Young by any stretch of the imagination. Um, he respected and honored Neil. But he was saying, in my opinion, he was saying to Neil Young, don't judge all Southern men by the ones that are racist. You know, a lot of us men in the South are not racist. I'm not. I love African American people. I love Chinese American people. I love Mexican American people. I love gay people. You know, gay people are some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. But they certainly have a hard road to hoe. Um, but what I feel that Ronnie was saying to Neil Young is just, you know, don't blame all Southern men, on what a few, well, quite a few, the racism, the systemic racism, because Ronnie was like this, and I'm the same way, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are too. If a person is a good person, then it doesn't matter what gender, what color of their skin, or what their sexual preference is. If you're a good person, you're a good person, and certainly that is the way I live my life.
Well, that's great to hear, and thanks for sharing that perspective too. That that he and Neil, were actually friends. Because I feel like a lot of people try to draw that, a hard divided line there. Like, oh, Lynyrd Skynyrd, and then you had Neil Young's and his song Southern Man, and they try to draw that line. But life isn't really like that. It isn't black and white like that. You know what I mean? Like, there's good people, I think, out there, and I think you're one of them, sir.
Um, that that's very true, and you know, um, that's the way Ronnie felt about people. And Neil Young actually wrote some songs and submitted them for Ronnie to look at. And that would have been, think about that collaboration. That would have been an amazing, you know, when Sweet Home Alabama and Southern Man meet. But of course, Ronnie was killed. I talked to Neil Young one time about it, and he was looking forward to working with Ronnie on a collaboration. But Ronnie was killed, and so that didn't happen, of course. So it's amazing. I think about it a lot. The collaboration between Steve Gaines and Ronnie, that could have gone so much farther, and the collaboration between Neil Young and Ronnie. Um, and I feel if had Ronnie lived, he would have collaborated with a lot of the country, guys that are, really good up there, the songwriters, because first Ronnie was definitely a songwriter, and the collaborations that could have been would have been historic. But Ronnie left a pretty large legacy in spite of his short time on Earth.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, anyone would be hard pressed to compete with. I mean, we'd be here all day. Ballad of Curtis Lowe and Saturday Night Special. What's your name? That smell. You got that right. Give me back my bullets. It's just on and on and on. Considering
It's
the music,
hard for
yeah,
us to pick a set
right.
when we you got to do Sweet Home, you got to do Freebird and Simple Man, but all the other songs we can plug in different. We can't do them all. We'd like to, but our contract usually calls for about an hour and 20 minutes, and
Not possible. It's not
we can,
possible.
yeah, we have to substitute different songs, but no matter what song we plug in, it's got a fan. There are people that know every single word. So All I can say is we certainly um, appreciate and love the fans of Lynyrd Skynyrd, because there's so many people out there that relate to the words that Ronnie wrote. And the one song that I feel that I wrote with Ronnie is That Smell. Because Ronnie and I sat one night and he told me the words that he had, and we were kind of talking about the music, and I came up with the drum beat um, from the Eagles, One of These Nights. That's I did a variation on a theme,
Oh, no joke. I
but
never realized that.
yeah, it's called a lilting groove. And so I asked Ronnie, I said, "You're familiar with One of These Nights?" And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "What about that as the groove behind um, That Smell?" And he says, "I like it." I remember him saying, I like it. I like that. And so I just kind of did a variation on that, and used it. So One of These Nights by the Eagles, and That Smell by us, the Leonard Skinner. Um, they have a similar groove. I didn't just copy it, but I told Ronnie, I said, I'm just going to do kind of vary it a little bit, but that's the feel that I want. And Ronnie liked it, and the rest is history.
Wow, I had no idea the connection between those songs. That's so great. But yeah, like you said, it's these songs will live on forever. And I do feel like, I mean, particularly Freebird. Let's end there. Let's end on Freebird, because considering the movie and everything, and it is the one, like you say, is played at funerals. And if I leave here tomorrow, will you still remember me? It's like eerily prescient. But like, do you think that the band's legacy, and tied into that song too, is sort of it's almost elevated, just like Buddy Holly or Patsy Cline or Richie Valens, or I mean, in sports, Roberto Clemente, Kobe Bryant recently. Like, the people that are killed in these crashes, and it almost allows the legacy of the band, or even like a Kurt Cobain Nirvana. He took his own life, but like in death, the songs almost take on a epic mythic proportion that maybe not wasn't even there beforehand. I mean, do you think Freebird sort of just grew and grew and grew and snowballed over the years because of the crash in a weird way?
Um, I'm sure, that's a point well taken, because the crash definitely added to the stigma of. But when I think of Freebird, I think of an angel. Once you're released from the bonds of earth, you're like an angel. And the words, "If I leave here tomorrow, would you still remember me?" And that's how we remember all of our loved ones, and people that we admire. We keep them alive by talking about them. So, you know, if I leave here tomorrow, will you still remember me? It's just saying, if you evoke my name, it's almost, and it's almost talking about God. If you evoke my name, then that's a blessing for you. You're remembering somebody. So by when I play these songs with my band, I'm sure everybody, and a lot of people in the crowd, I know I am. I'm thinking about individuals, Ronnie and Steve. Steve Gaines was an amazing person. His sister Cassie, an amazing person. Um, and over the years, we've lost Leon and Billy and Alan. And I think about him. So Ronnie's words are very, um, you know, strong about remembering people, and that's what the song is about to me. Um, and everybody has their own individual interpretation of the song. That's the beauty of music. You can see it through different eyes, and you can hear it through different ears, and it means different things to different people. But I think the unified belief is that, Freebird is everybody. And Ronnie said this in one of our documentaries. He said everybody wants to be free like a bird, and it's an amazing legacy to be a part of. As I've said before, I'm very happy to be included.
Wow. Well, we're very happy that you included us for over an hour. I'm going to let you run because I still can't believe we got to chat with you for so long and so in depth on such a heavy topic, probably tough memories for you, but so much joy. I'm so glad like you said, you've been sad for over 40 years and you've sort of found, sounds like at least you've found a little perspective and joy and just trying to find the happy memories. So thank you for joining us. And again, everyone, check out the movie. It's called Street Survivors, the true story of the Lynyrd Skynyrd Plane Crash, which happened 44 years ago today, October 20th, 1977. So thank you so much, Artimus. I really, really appreciate this. This was fantastic.
Well, you're certainly welcome, Jason. And as I say, if you need any more information, reach out. I'm here. Come see us play sometime. You seem to have a knowledge of the music. If you come and see my band play sometime, I think you'll enjoy it. And I appreciate you getting behind the movie. I just want to say that I gave my story to Hollywood. I did not sell it. It's $1 million story, and I gave it to Hollywood. I didn't sell my story. I didn't do this for profit. They sell the movie in Walmart. It's on Netflix and different formats that are out there. And I don't receive a single dime for the movie and my participation in it. And I did that for a reason. I wanted the story told, and I didn't want it to be about money. So, I gave the story. I don't make a dime on this movie, so I'm not trying to sell the movie so I can make a bunch of money. I want people to see the movie and see that, it's not for children. There's nudity, there's drugs, and there's some fighting and everything, but that's the way it was. And we tried to be as accurate as we could with our budget, and the fact that we were being sued the entire time. It's almost like I look at like a great painter is trying to paint the Mona Lisa, and the whole time he's trying to paint, he's got a bunch of idiots throwing rocks at him and mud, and trying to, throwing cow poop, at the canvas. But we got it done, and against all odds. And so I wanted to make sure that people realize that I'm not trying to make money on this. I just wanted the story told. Therefore, I appreciate you and your station so much, for getting the movie out there, because I'm looking at the movie and the soundtrack as a brand new product.
Sure.
It's out there, and it's been out there for a year, over a year, since March before, during COVID. So it's been out there, and I appreciate you giving us a reboot on this. So for everybody out there that's listening, that loves Lynyrd Skynyrd music, thank you so much for keeping us alive all these years.
Well, and you made it the painting analogy, but Freebird is pretty much the Mona Lisa of rock and roll, my friend. I mean, maybe Stairway to Heaven, Zeppelin, but I mean, other than that, I mean, that Freebird is it. It's the Mona Lisa. So everyone check out the movie, and thanks so much, Artimus. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.